Hey folks, Dude here. Well, Tigger's got the day off. I'll bring another guy into it, but it's still Java. Okay, that's now how I deal with this and fix this, but it's one of those things that can kind of help. Today's video I'm going to be talking about, well, survival and when you're suffering depression. So this is basically survival depression. Let me get that out of there and we can go on from there and do something else. Nope, don't want to save it. Okay, essentially, depression is where you pretty much fall into a lackluster state. Things aren't working so well anymore. Okay, let's just go with the basic, pretty much nuts and bolts approach of what do you do to address this and how do you even really figure out if you are. Okay, well, basic personality things that come into play and major motivational things that you try to espouse, and okay, just your personal schedule has kind of gone wonky. Essentially, if you can't sleep or you sleep too much, you can't concentrate, you find that previously easy tasks are now difficult, you feel hopeless and, well, helpless, you can't control your negative thoughts no matter how much you try, you've lost your appetite, you can't stop eating, and you're much more irritable and short-tempered than usual. You have thoughts that life is not worth living. Okay, now let me break this down from bottom to top. You have thoughts that life is not worth living. Alright, this is a survival situation. You're not going to be staying at the Ritz in the presidential suite. It's going to suck. And you're going to have to address things, and you're going to have to look at things through your own keyhole to say, what works for me, what removes the suck from my life, and it makes me able to deal with these things and press on forward. For me, well, if you guys don't know it, I've been out of work for a while. I am not on public assistance. I do not take any form of fundage from the gov because, well, I've got some savings. I live fairly cheap. And, well, Mrs. Dude is fairly nice in the regard that she makes a good living, so I've got a really big step up on a lot of people in the rest of the country. Some places are really, really depressed. And I do mean depressed in economical means. I don't mean depressed in mental facilities. Alright, so thoughts that life is not worth living. If you're looking down the barrel of a gun and you're getting ready to squeeze one off, you ain't surviving. You might want to seek some tutelage by reading up on this. You might want to crack a Bible. You might want to try to look for stuff that's inspirational, gives you reasons to move onward. Now, in terms of being that bummed out, they say seek help immediately if this is the case. Well, that's great. I'll just run right out to the zombie-laden battlefield, find myself a psychologist or a psychiatrist, speak to them on the couch for however amount of time it takes me to go, hey man, my life sucks. Can you fix it? Well, here's the dirty little secret. Psychologists, psychiatrists, all the rest of those guys, they usually don't fix the problem. What happens is you get on the couch and they play detective. They are the best detectives on the planet. What happens is you give them a little bit of information, they try to figure out why things are going screwy in your brain, and they go, aha, come Watson, we will fix the problem. They play Sherlock Holmes in your skull. Now, in terms of this on your own, you could crack a psychology book and you could go, okay, yeah, I might have this, my id, my ego, and all the rest of these guys are in conflict with one another, and I'm gonna go mano a mano with my own brain. You're gonna lose. You're very seriously gonna lose. What you need to do is you need to find that light at the end of the tunnel that says, you know what, man? This definitely does make my life worth living, and all the rest of this all speed bumps and, well, barbed wire I gotta crawl across, it's nothing but a minor issue. I will live through it, I'll persevere, and I'll be courageously, well, enduring upon myself to make myself that guy that basically I have to rely upon to save my own ass. That's number one, going from bottom to top. You're much more irritable, excuse me, you're much more irritable and short-tempered than usual. Well, if you're doing the same thing day in and day out, you become it becomes routine, it gets boring. Do something different, Stay up all night long, completely switch up your sleeping patterns for a week. I mean, just really, Go out, work yourself out like crazy, or take a week off. Do something that is completely out of character and do it for a while, and then try to get yourself back to your center yet again. That's the only thing that really works for me. Now, as for being much more irritable and short-tempered than usual, learn to laugh at yourself. When you're wailing on a nail and you whack yourself in the finger, laugh it off. It ain't nothing but a bit of pain. You've been through worse, and if you haven't crushed a nail and you haven't broken anything, it's a minor irritation, and it's short to be at least. So look at that one backwards. Excuse me. It says you're much more irritable and short-tempered than usual. Okay, it's an irritation, and it's going to last for a short while, which will get to your temper, and it is not usual. Move on. You've lost your appetite and you can't stop, or you can't stop eating. Well, if you're in a survival situation, that's pretty easy to fix. You've got some stuff that you can eat, you have other stuff that you don't have and you really wish you could get. Maybe try to seek out the stuff you can find that you don't have. Or if you can't stop eating, well, what you could do, and I would say probably you'd never ever want to do in a survival situation, is eat to the point where you explode. I mean, if for nothing else, you're really sucking down tons of calories you can really use later, and it's not going to do you anything good in the short term. So maybe what you need to do is you need to find something, a project, something that you've been putting off, or you need to make a list of things that you know for a fact has got to be worked on, and you got to approach because the zombies are wailing on your door, they're wearing out something, your house needs a coat of paint because the zombies stripped off one side. Come up with a list. Come up with something that gives you something to move on from your point of suck. You can't control your negative thoughts no matter how you try. Well, you know what? That's when I basically use an email, and I simply dial a very short phone number that always works for me. I dial G-O-D. I would pray on such and seek some clarity, and if you're not a religious person, here's the funny-ass thing that never fails to crack me up. Oh, I'm not religious, I don't pray. Dude, how many times have you been walking along going, oh, please let this work. Oh, please let this work. Excuse me, if you're not addressing God or some other, primarily huger entity than yourself, you're praying. If you're not praying to them, you're praying to karma, you're praying to good effect, you're praying to positive things occurring from something negative. Okay, what you're doing is you're trying to seek something outside your control to bring some help back into you, which is not exactly the most, vicarious thing because it's sucking, you're trying to fix it, and, hopefully that larger entity than yourself can help you fix it. If not, you can have a moment of clarity where you go, you know what? That wasn't working. I think I got something that can fix this. Now, if you're not a religious person, most of that stuff you can blow aside, but, I'm not like the huge Bible thumping, go to Jesus, da-da-da-da-da. If that works for you, that's excellent. If it doesn't work for you, I realize there's many other religions upon the planet. There's many other ways in which to seek your spiritual feeding, because your spirit does get empty at times and requires some replenishment. Seek something larger than yourself. If you can't find that and you don't have any other means to do so, look at the negative and analyze it. Okay, I'm really bummed out because of this thought, and you go, you know what? This is crap. I'm not thinking that anymore. I'm going to blow that off. Or you look at something and you know what? That isn't working for me either. I'm going to blow that off. Now, I have known myself intimately, please don't get naughty on that one, I've known myself intimately since I was, a pre-teen, say a tween. I discovered something called transcendental meditation. That's where you kind of sit by yourself and you remove all the swirling thoughts from your brain, and your exercise is you think about absolutely nothing. Now, what I see it as is the easiest way to describe this, and everybody has their own ways of doing this, is what I used to do is I would imagine black velvet. Now, if you look at black velvet, of course, you could find some lint on it, whatnot, and all this. Blow that off is completely pristine. You are trying to think of the darkest, blackest, absolute nothing, absolute missing anything of any form, of any reference, of any point, of any aspect of existence that you can place yourself upon. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to attain nothingness. Now, here's the other thing. Once you do that, you then have to talk about okay, making sure that yourself can reach a point of center. The point of center is where you have, well, you're just trying to find your best self. You're trying to center yourself, and you're trying to basically make your own self whole yet again. You feel hopeless and helpless. Well, one kind of ties into the next, and if you can't help but stop feeling negative, you definitely feel hopeless and helpless. Blow those thoughts off. Just don't even think about them. Can't concentrate and find previously easy tasks are now difficult? Find another way to do them, or just do them a little bit at a time, come back to them later, do a little bit more, a little bit at a time, and knock out as much as you can until you are done. Can't sleep too much, or you are sleeping too much. Well, eventually that stuff does find a point of equilibrium. So, hopefully this is all stuff that you guys can take with a grain of salt, or maybe utilize to your own, well, means to get yourself back out of, well, survival depression. Good luck, and of course, as always, here on the Podcast Channel, Earth.